This is the Mercedes 35 horsepower. Imagine it's 1901. No highways, no seatbelts, no traffic rules. And suddenly, this beast arrives with 35 horsepower. Believe it or not, this might just be the very first modern car as we know it today. Crazy, right? Over 100 years ago, this machine changed the entire game. But here's the real question. What made it so special that people still call it the grandfather of modern automobiles? Let's take a ride back in time and find out. But before we get into the Mercedes 35 PS itself, let's rewind the clock. What was the world like before Mercedes built this car? Picture the streets of Europe around 1900, mostly horses and carriages, the smell of hay, the sound of hooves, not engines. Sure, there were cars, but let's be honest, they were awkward. Basically, carriages with engines strapped on. They were tall, unstable, hard to control. And let's not even talk about the reliability. In fact, many people back then thought cars were just noisy toys for the rich. Steam engines? Too bulky. Electric cars? Yes, they actually existed, but batteries were weak and short-lived. And then Emil Jelinek, a businessman who demanded something faster, stronger, safer, and he worked with Wilhelm Maybach at Daimler, who said, "Enough of this nonsense. Let's build something better, something purpose-built." And that something became the Mercedes 35 PS, the first car that finally looked and drove like a real automobile, not a horse buggy with an identity crisis. Okay, pause for a second and really imagine this. The year is 1901. Most cars back then, barely scratching 8 horsepower. A horse? Just one, obviously. So when Mercedes rolled out with 35 horsepower, boom! It was like dropping a bomb on the automotive world. 35. That's not just a number. That's 3 times stronger than the cars of its time, and 35 times stronger than the animal it was replacing. Picture it. You're sitting on a horse cart, trotting along, and suddenly this machine screams past you at nearly 75 kilometers an hour. Back then, that speed felt unreal, like a rocket on wheels. People weren't just impressed, they were shocked, some were even scared. And the best part? They couldn't stop talking about it. This wasn't just a car, this was the future, arriving right in front of their eyes. Okay, now let's talk design, because this is where Mercedes didn't just make a car. They set the standard for every car that came after. First glance, long, low, wide. It looked nothing like the clunky wooden carriages people were used to. This was sleek, this was modern, and for the first time ever, the engine was placed at the front with a long wheelbase. Sounds normal now, right? But in 1901, that was revolutionary. Now check out the wheels. Thin, tall, spoked like a bicycle, but wrapped in rubber tires. Imagine the difference. Before this, most vehicles were bouncing on wooden wheels with iron rims. Can you picture how rough that ride must have been? But here, suddenly, you had rubber cushioning the impact. For passengers, that felt like magic. And the steering, oh, this is huge. Mercedes introduced a proper steering wheel instead of a tiller. Think about it. Without this leap, maybe we'd still be awkwardly steering with sticks today. The wheel gave drivers precision and control, which meant higher speeds felt possible and safe. Now, the seats. Don't expect S-Class comfort here. These were more like polished wooden benches topped with leather. But for 1901, this was pure luxury. If you were riding in one, you weren't just traveling. You were arriving. People looked at you and instantly knew you were riding the future. And the body, low-slung, aerodynamic for its time, with curves that whispered speed even while standing still. This wasn't just transportation, this was a statement piece. A bold declaration, the carriage era was over, the motor age had begun. All right, now let's get into the fun part, performance and driving. Because under that long, heavy bonnet wasn't just an engine, it was a revolution. What Mercedes gave the world in 1901 was a 5.9-liter, 4-cylinder engine pumping out 35 horsepower. 35! That might sound tiny today. Your average family hatchback laughs at that number. But pause for a second. In 1901, a horse could barely hit 40 kilometers per hour at full sprint. This machine? It blasted to 75 kilometers per hour. That's almost twice as fast as the fastest thing people had ever seen on the road. Imagine villagers watching this monster fly past. It must have felt like witnessing a spaceship, and it wasn't just about raw speed. Here's the secret sauce: stability and control. Thanks to that long wheelbase and front-engine design, this car didn't wobble or tip like many early motor cars. Add in that new steering wheel, and suddenly, drivers had precision at their fingertips. You weren't wrestling the machine anymore, you were guiding it. Now, here's where it gets exciting: racing. The Mercedes 35 PS didn't just cruise boulevards, it dominated tracks. In 1901 at the Nice Speed Week, it blew away the competition. Crowds couldn't believe it. This wasn't a toy for the rich. This was a serious performance machine. Think about it. Reliability, speed, control, all in a time when cars were still considered experimental. The 35 PS proved that the automobile wasn't just a novelty. It was the future of driving. All right, so let's talk about owning one today. Sounds exciting, right? Well, let me stop you right there, because it's nearly impossible. Only a handful of Mercedes 35 PS models still exist, and every single one of them is locked away in museums or private collections. They're treated like crown jewels. Now, imagine if one actually came to auction. The price? Absolutely insane. We're talking in the millions. And here's why. This isn't just a car, this is history on wheels. It's like holding the original iPhone, except 100 years earlier and about 1,000,000 times rarer. But let's say somehow you did get one. Maintenance? Forget it. You'd need a team of expert mechanics, historians, and maybe even a time machine just to keep it running. Every bolt, every gear would be a puzzle from another era, and that's exactly the point. The Mercedes 35 PS was never meant to be your daily commuter in 2025. It's a legend. It's the first chapter in the Mercedes story. And honestly, in the story of modern cars, owning one isn't about driving. It's about holding the key to where it all began. So does the Mercedes 35 really deserve its legendary status? In my view, absolutely. No question about it. This wasn't just a car, it was the car that changed everything. People at the time called it the first modern automobile, and honestly, they were right. Without this machine, the blueprint of cars as we know them, engine in the front, long wheelbase, stability, control, might not even exist today. And here's the fun part. Whenever historians or car enthusiasts talk about it, there's always the same reaction: respect. Some say it was less of a car and more of a revolution on wheels. Think about it. Every Mercedes that came after, from the S-Class to the AMG beasts, traces its DNA back to this one model. It's not just history, it's the foundation of luxury and performance combined. Now, here's something for you to think about. If you had the chance to take just one spin in this 1901 machine, would you do it? Remember, no seatbelts, no airbags, no comfort, just raw 1901 adrenaline. Would you dare? Drop your answer in the comments. And hey, if you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure you hit subscribe, because this is only the beginning of our ride through the world's greatest luxury legends.